to Upstage Downstage with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain.
On today's episode, we welcome back Jem Blake into the recording as we'll be discussing Operation Mincemeat. We saw this production at the Lowry, Salford, during its launch of a full UK tour on the 21st of February, and then again, mid-tour, alongside Jem, at Sheffield Lyceum on the 18th of April 2026. Gemma?
From fringe favourite to West End phenomenon, this genre-busting production heads out on its first ever UK nationwide tour in 2026 with book, music and lyrics by David Cumming, Felix Hagen, Natasha Hodgson and Zoe Roberts, and directed by Robert Hasty. Winner of the 2024 Olivier Award for Best New Musical, Operation Mincemeat has become London's biggest hit, earning a record-breaking 77 five-star reviews as the best reviewed show in West End history. So, Richard, what's it all about?
The year is 1943. The Allies are losing the war, and an audacious plan is about to be set in motion, involving a stolen corpse, a fake love letter, and one of the most unlikely intelligence operations ever devised. Blending fast-paced comedy with ingenious storytelling, the musical unpacks the extraordinary events that wrong-footed Hitler and rewrote history, asking how such an outlandish plan could possibly succeed.
But first, our post-show opinion!
Fun, fast-paced and unforgettable.
A theatrical operation I need.
Operation Musical Magnificence.
So with all that said, let's...
Set the scene!
Would either of you like to set the scene for Operation Mincemeat?
Okay, so the set design for this production is basically a war room, what you would see in World War II, where operations were talked about, projects. So you've got a very it's almost like the gridded system that you'd see on war planning on a where they'd push round your little boats and little ships to decide like where to put them, and basically like playing battleships on stage in a way, but with chalkboards and blackboards on the walls and an old school blackboard on stage that basically is very reminiscent of being at school, but it was very much used in the in a war room as well to write down various things to do with an operation, shall we say, and it's got your traditional government parquet floor, wooden floor look, but it's all very blue centered staging, so everything's in one sort of colour scheme, and it's greys and blacks for the rest, really. And then you've got 6 entrances off the side of stage with telephones on each pillar, and then there's telephones at the back of the stage as well. And the only other thing you've got that's hanging down is some fluorescent lighting that you'd see in a military sort of bunker or a military like space.
Yeah.
It's very Bletchley, isn't it?
Yeah. And they've got hidden doors panels on the backstage wall.
There's but also the a couple of the doorways at certain points are blocked in with an actual door, and then it's taken away when it's not needed. But it's just to show that there's another room off that side, or there's something else happening the other side.
Downstage left for the office.
Yeah, downstage left for Bevan's office. And then there's a clever bit where the actual blackboard becomes another doorway for the international autopsy room in Spain. So there's certain things that happen just to show you that there's different spaces on stage.
With the stage, though, it does feel very minimal. Like, it at first, it does feel like it is bare stage at the very, very beginning before they bring anything on. So you kind of, it leaves the audience thinking, well, what's going to happen here, you know? Yeah. So, and, it's only a 5-person cast. So you're initially hit with this empty space and you're thinking, how are these 5 people going to fill this space, you know, when you first see it. But actually the set is just used very cleverly throughout, and you know, they can go from having quite a bit of set on stage to then nothing, you know, within almost like seconds. You know, it's really well manoeuvred by the cast.
But they use it as a really good backdrop for everything else throughout the whole play, really. It isn't until the very end where it slightly changes for something which is quite hidden at the very, you know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Won't give it away.
And they don't need masses of set throughout most of the show.
No.
It's we, with our imagination, are taken to different places with not a lot of set at all, really, which is actually really clever. They just move the set to a different space on the stage and possibly turn it around sometimes. And that's enough for the audience to know, actually, we're in a different location, we're somewhere different. And I think that was very clever, just the way that they did that.
I think the other thing to say is there's two big desks on stage that are on wheels, and they get moved around a lot, and they've got drawers with bits in and props in. But the clever bit of that is the design of the actual desks is both sides of them. They've actually got Union Jacks on the side to give you that British, like this is a war room, this is this is what we're doing. But they become the centre table for like how to decide what to do with the operation and where to, you know, with the map of Europe and things like that. But then also the next minute they've got covers on them and things over them to make them become other things. And it's all done in a way that creates so much more from just simple things on wheels. And they've just got simple your old school metal wooden top chairs that you'd have in those settings as well, in a military base almost. So everything on stage feels like that. The other little touch I liked as well with the black telephones that were on there, every time one was lifted, a red light came on. Yeah. Every time that one rang, the red light rang. And it was little things like that that just added to the authenticity of it. And also there's little, like, it's not really a technical point, it's more of a set point. They've got like your original glass covered lights on stage that had come on when they were doing certain things on stage, and I thought that worked really well. This set only takes up half of the stage, and it's quite interesting in construction because it actually makes sure that the cast always stay present for anybody sitting in the audience.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of stagers forget that for something like this, you don't want people missing things, so you've got to let everybody feel that they're being brought into a smaller, intimate theatre, even if you're in a big one. And it's cleverly pushes the cast forward into the audience.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yes, it's useful for some of the things we'll talk about later, but for the actual core of the production, you need to push the cast forward. Because when it's in the Fortune Theatre, because I've seen it in the original space after it did its Fringe iteration, this is the same set. It might be slightly bigger, but there's not much in it because the Fortune Theatre is quite small anyway, so it's been built in that way that is quite a small venue. And there's not much difference between this and the tour and the London version. There's a few things that change, but I will talk throughout about what is different. It's quite clever that they've designed the set to make you feel like you've got the same aesthetics, you know, to keep it authentic.
Yeah, I'm keeping it in this sort of like shoebox shape. You're keeping all the action together, because if they hadn't had that backdrop,
yes,
you know, the actors, I'm sure, would be pretty much lost on a huge stage, especially when they're having to move things in and out and quick changes and hiding things and having that surprise element of people coming out of different doors. By keeping it in that sort of limited space, you keep it tighter, you keep the action quick, fast-paced and flowing and more freer.
It feels intimate as well, because like, obviously, I'm assuming when they were devising all of these operations, I'm not imagining that they were in massive, like, rooms. They would have been in, like, you know, basements somewhere. They would have been somewhere secretive. So you feel as though you're privy to this secret in this small little space. And
down a basement.
Yeah, definitely.
I think something you talked about as well, Stephen, where they've got hidden doorways. One of my favourite moments is when they first open the doorway into the operation room, where they come down some stairs at the back. Yeah. And all it'll be is those stairs offer a fake staircase at the back, but it makes you look like they're climbing down into the basement, and it's they're just coming through a doorway that actually takes you to a different space, the same stage, but that one view of them walking down and coming into this space takes you from Bevan's room into an operation room, and
it's another thought process that's gone behind the door.
Yeah.
Really, how do we get into that room and make it different to the other room that we've just been in?
And it's the fact that when that door fully swings round, it's actually got metalwork and almost bunker-like reinforcement on it that you feel like this is a different space, and that's just one door. And that's one door and a few stairs, and it looks. I think we'll go into direction, but the fact that they only use that to leave that space creates that you're still in that world. You've not left it,
And the cobblestone wall detailing
Yeah.
behind the door,
Yeah,
like just
exactly,
added. Oh yes,
Yeah.
we are definitely in the basement of a building
exactly.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And what I loved is the pieces of furniture that gets moved in. Like there's one piece that gets brought in near the end of Act 1, and it's covered in tarpaulin. But then once it's taken off, you see there's somebody behind the bar in the Milky Pig.
Yeah.
And then that gets moved around and turned into the underground for something else,
exactly.
and then it's moved again
Yeah.
around like 360 again to be something
It's
else.
like the nightclub
exactly.
and it becomes another with a load of lights on it. But every turn, it's a different thing.
It's been really well thought out, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like they've got one piece, one main prop, and then they're like you say, they're turning it around. But whoever's designed that, it's just brilliant. Because backstage, I don't know how much wing space they've got, but that would save so much wing space backstage for the
But
actors as well.
if it's on stage for one scene, how can it be still on stage for another scene and another scene in a different way before being taken off if it's a big piece as well? Because it's quite easy to remove like 2 bar stools and a glass that doesn't really get used for that one scene straight off. But if it's a big one being wheeled in, how can we keep it on there and not disrupt the action of the songs going on?
It's just multi-purpose,
Exactly,
isn't it?
yeah, and that's really clever.
I think
design
as well
there.
that the other little thing I like with the set change is just before the scene talking about where they're doing the travelling round different pubs and this and the other, is the fact that we've just come from almost Docklands where they've covered that entire set scenery piece with what looked like, I don't know if it's like the part of the submarine or whatever it was, and then they pull that cover away and the pub's behind it, and the bar woman's already at the bar, and you didn't even see it happen. It's just complete like moment that it's so small, but it was so smooth that I've yet to see others pull that off.
And the set was brought on by the actors, so you didn't see any crew.
No.
So I think they've already got all of their choreography, that they have to have learned. But this is something on top of that. They're also responsible for all of the props and the set being in the right place at the right time, for the lighting to be correct, in the right place as well.
Thank God they're not doing the lighting as well or the sound effects.
They do it. It's a lot. It's a tall order, I think, for an actor.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing a phenomenal job, really.
Yeah.
Should we talk a little on the costumes?
Go for it.
Well, they were all just really initially in a white shirt, weren't they? And black trousers.
High-waisted trousers.
Yeah. And, black shoes, a lot of brogues going on. But, they just looked like they would have been, quite high up. They looked, like I say, they were just office worker kind of attire.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of the changes, because it was a show that had a lot of multi-rolling going on, the changes were often done with character with like a jacket, a hat.
Yes.
I think in only one scene at the beginning did they throw a skirt on or something crazy.
Yeah, they all became like female typers, didn't they, at the time?
But there wasn't anything... there was a couple of scenes where, they might have had a full costume change, like at the beginning of Act 2, and they had quite glitzy costumes. But most of the attire that they wore was quickly interchangeable because they had to be able to change from character to character very quickly. It wasn't like, I'm a character in this scene and then the scene stops and there's a new scene and they're a character. It's like it all flowed seamlessly. Like I remember one of them walking, I think they had a hat on, and then the chalkboard came in front of them and they were completely, a different character with a different something else in their hand, and we knew they weren't the same person anymore. and it was just all done quite effortlessly. At the handing over of all the props as well, that would have had to have been all choreographed and thought about. So yeah, I think there was just, I really liked the coroner's costume as well with the top hat and his cape. I thought that was quite fun, and the blood was glitter, like it was very all jazzy and stuff like that. I quite like that as well. So
I like the difference in when the actors portray these different characters, even though they're wearing the same sort of similar costume. Like, for example, Christian Andrews, when he was playing Hester, he very much like touched his t-shirt as if it was not his t-shirt. He touched his shirt as if it was a blouse, and you know, with the high-waisted trousers, he moved around with that costume on, as if it was believable that it was Hester. But then the moment he became someone different in the same costume, you know, it wasn't necessarily like a costume change, but it's just how he made that work.
Yeah, and I was gonna add to that as well, because all he did was undo the top two buttons to create that heart shape, like love, the more feminine side. So because the other thing that this production is quite useful for is the fact that the whole sort of attire of the 40s and 50s was very much shirts, trousers, tailored skirts, tailored uniform based wear. So everything they changed into, the shirt lent itself. You know, you've only got to look at Fleming when he's wearing a bow tie.
Yeah.
The shirt still works. Everything that they changed into still worked with what they were wearing, because that was the era of people being very formal a lot of the time. There wasn't as much freedom in what they wore, so it actually helped with quicker changes, because they didn't have to fully change everything, you know, and that then lent itself to all the different things. But it must have been mayhem trying to put the right things on, the right this and the right that, you know.
Yeah, I meant to say with the Hester thing, it was the glasses as well.
Yeah, the pearls off the glasses.
Yeah, well, he took his glasses out to the top pocket of his shirt and put it on to quickly become Hester, and then doing the shirt up.
And I'm really
blouse.
glad that they used that instead of a skirt.
Yeah.
Because I think most people would think, oh, this is a male actor playing a female, like, you know. They could have thought about a skirt, but I think it wasn't needed.
No.
And I think as well it might have seemed more of a mockery, whereas this character was quite a serious character as well, quite stoic in some way. And I think to have the glasses, we knew who that character was. We knew he was playing a female, and I just think it was very cleverly done that they were like other characters, you know, did wear. You know, some of the male actors did wear a skirt at one point, but it was for more flamboyant, fun characters. But for this particular character, they obviously decided, no, we're going to use the glasses. And I just thought it was such a lovely touch that this is what we associate. Each character had an item of clothing or a prop that we associated with them. So we were never confused about which character each actor was playing at a specific point, because we'd see the prop and we'd just know. And we just associate that character with that prop or piece of costume.
I think it's an interesting thing we're talking about, Hester, because for me, I always got links in my head to your Hinge and Bracket, your St Trinian's head teacher, your all those old very strong women that were very straight down the line, and they'd say something and they'd be very dismissive of anything else. It's that sort of character that's very. They're in their own lane and they will tell you off if you're not being proper. You know, it's that sort of, you know, and to keep in that character is
it's a bit matron.
It's that sort of, it's that.
Well, a lot of those characters are probably based off real life people that in turn are covering up a lot of internal pain and stuff.
Okay, so set and costumes done by Ben Stones, and I think it was very clear that this is a production that needed it all to have a cohesion to bring it all together, and I think he's clearly pulled it all together to have this look and aesthetic that really works strongly together.
Yeah, he did a smashing job, I think. I don't think anyone could have really done it better. It was flawless for me, really. So, yeah.
And just looking at Ben Stone's work, it makes sense. One production that I covered a long time ago was Sylvia, and he did Sylvia as well, and that's got a very similar, not the same aesthetic as this, but a very strong set design and costume design that works so solidly together. So I can, in a way, see why they approached Ben to do this as well, because it's got that strength in production.
Right, should we talk about the writing, direction, and actors?
Yeah.
Right then. Let's talk about the writing, directors, and actors.
Shall we?
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're
Here for the drama.
So, how many times have you seen this production now, Richard?
As of this weekend, it's been my 4th time.
4th time. Okay.
Yeah.
It was the 2nd time for me, because obviously we covered it in the Lowry.
Yes, we did.
And you, Jem?
It was my first time ever seeing it. I did listen to the soundtrack beforehand, and I was excited about seeing it live. I was also worried that maybe I might be too excited and it might not live up to expectation, but was very happily surprised when it did exceed everything that I expected of it and more, really.
Has there ever been a time where you've been too excited and then been let down?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's so easy to do, not just in theatre but in movies. When you go and see something and people have been raving about it, and maybe it's just it can be a matter of taste.
Yeah.
And obviously every performance with theatre is different. So maybe if you had a different cast, or there's a lot of things that can change in theatre. Yeah. If they've made adjustments to the script, things like that, it can change your mind about certain things. So, but yeah, this was just. Obviously I have not seen the original, but I thoroughly enjoyed it and I thought they did a cracking job of it, really.
Yeah. What are your thoughts if you've seen different cast?
Well, I've seen the original cast twice.
Very jealous.
And the first time was purely a fluke because I had some time when I was in London and I just decided to make sure I go and see it because everybody was talking about it. And I went to see it. I managed to get a last-minute ticket and I was sat on the front row, and the Fortune Theatre's not great for the front row because you do crane your neck, but to actually watch it and know it was going to be an amazing production, and just it was phenomenal, even though the viewing angle wasn't great. I knew straight away this was something special, and there isn't actually that much changed in the tour version. There's a couple of bits where I will mention them later when we talk about certain bits, so I don't want to give too much away straight away, but the actual whole piece, I'm just really pleased that it's got to this level that it's now touring, because this company, Split Lip, have worked hard on getting this production even into the West End. They had to do the hard slog in the Edinburgh Fringe. They had to put it on in Manchester, in London, in small venues, little venues that in a way it helped them, fine tune what they've created. But luckily, they've stuck with it, and they've now got a national tour and it's next to go on tour in Broadway and also tour in America. So it's now becoming the almost monster that it deserves because of the amount of work that's been put in. But it's quite nice to see it become what it is now.
Yeah.
But I am pleased they haven't really changed that much. There's probably some little logistic things that they've changed just because of the tour, but I don't think they've changed enough that you'd notice. They've enhanced some bits. So
I'm not privy to that, so I don't know what they've changed,
No, so one of the main things is, I'll talk about this now. So
Go on then, talk about this thing now.
The finale scene,
yes,
isn't as grand as it is in the tour.
Oh.
But in the finale scene, the actual back wall becomes the staircase. So the back wall drops down so you've got the two doorways, where your normal doorways are on the stage that we see now, but the middle section actually falls forward and all the stairs are built into the actual back wall.
Right.
So we talked about the gridded back wall, and basically that gridded back wall becomes the staircase for the glitzy finale.
Yeah.
Whereas in the tour version, it's a full take the back wall out of the way, fully remove it, and create this glitzy finale with loads of curtains and everything down there to create it more glitzy and distant from the production.
And the stairs lit up as she was walking down them. It was very fantastical. It was very something that you'd see in Hollywood or in those old films.
Well, that's what she's replicating in a way. Well, he is, as Montague, is replicating that he's now a star.
And for me, I liked it. I liked the way the distant change, because obviously that's what was on in the Fortune. The Fortune's only, it's a different thing. But they still lift Montague up and they still do all of that. The other thing that's slightly changed on the tour is half of the back wall open stage left when they do the submarine scene, when they go to actually onto the ship. So it opens up and there's a big cascading beam of light comes out of the back of stage. All they do on the tour is just project a white light across the stage floor.
Yeah.
They don't actually open that back wall. So when you see the captain walk through, he walks through that gap.
Yeah.
So it's not a doorway, it's just a solid gap. I think what that was trying to create, which I think it probably would have been difficult to do on tour because of the way they've done the opening of the set, it's done to almost give you the appearance that you're in a big warehouse or hangar, or that view that it's a different style of building. But because of the way that the tour set splits to let that staircase in, they've had to just do it differently on the tour. So it doesn't detract, but it's
the thing is that you still get the same
effect.
Yeah, you still understand what they're trying to do with
definitely.
what they did and what we saw. And I don't think I thought it was any cheap or
No,
that it could have been done better, or
No.
thinking, they should have actually done a bit more for that. It was fine as it is, to be honest.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe they just scaled back, like you say.
I think it's the payoff of, do you want the glitzy finale or do you just want it to open up for one little scene just before the interval? It's like the glitzy finale is more
Oh, that's definitely
of a better.
important.
Yeah.
That's more important than one scene for the captain to walk through. So it's I can see why they
It's
did
the
it.
wow factor and holding it back till the very end, because when they say glitzy finale, I'm not going to lie, I was expecting a few backdrops. I honestly wasn't expecting what we got.
Yeah.
It really did feel like they'd gone all out on budget and everything and thrown everything at it in a good way. But yeah, because it does feel so minimalist the whole way through, you're not expecting then all of a sudden to have almost everything on stage in this amazing way. It's very quick as well, so you're like, what? They've got all these stairs and everything else that they threw at you. It really did knock you for six when you were watching it as an audience member, because I think, I was not expecting there to be half a stage that wasn't being even used. My mind must have been aware of it, but, I didn't know what was behind that wall.
No, I get you.
And I think that's the thing, when it hits you as an audience member, you're like, wow, this really is. Forget glitzy finale. This is next world finale.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
it just goes there. It just, and they play the hand really well because they hold it back so much, because it's very easy to fall into that trap of, let's use it now. No, we need to hold it back for that moment. Otherwise, it's not going to work. A bit like the postcard that comes down for it's literally for moments where they bring that postcard down for the scene where they're now staying in Spain. It's literally brought down for minutes, not even minutes, and it's gone again, and it's and I think that works funny. That makes it funny.
Anything else about the writing? What do you think about the storyline?
It's very fast paced. Now, if you're wanting to go to the theatre and sit back and relax and be able to switch off a little bit, then this isn't that kind of show. I think you've got to be on your toes at all times, because a lot of the story is delivered in the lyrics. The lyrics are fast paced. There's some rapping going on, and just the way that they keep coming at you, there's not really much room to process. So you've got to be literally leaning forward and giving it all your attention. I think if you miss something, that's it, it's gone. It's not coming back. You've missed it. So it's not a great show to if it's not that I am, but for anybody getting a sweet out of your bag,
Go to the toilet.
If you've gone for even 10 seconds, there's so much information crammed into these lyrics and into the story that I do think they go over the very key important points of the plot. They'll make sure that you don't miss it. But you could miss all of the gems of information in there if you are not giving it your full attention. So I can't say that I sat there at any moment and was like, oh, I can just relax here and do nothing. You are almost participating yourself, as in you are having to absorb everything at a fast speed. So for me, that's fine. And I think for a generally younger audience, they'd be used to that maybe. I think even an older audience would be fine with it because, it just depends, how much attention you've got. But that is the one thing I would say. These lyrics come at you fast and furious, and you have to be ready for them. Yeah. And I think the thing is, if there's a laugh coming, you can sometimes... They've done it quite well, as in I think they know where the laughs are placed. So most of the time, after a really funny line, there is a pause.
Yeah, for you to take it all in.
For you to take it all in, and then hey, we're going to go back into it again. But I think on the very rare occasion that there was a laugh for something, they made sure, or they tried to make sure that the next lyrical line wasn't as important, or if that got missed under the radar, it wasn't as big a deal. But yeah, you had to be on it for this show because the actors were just giving it 150%, and it was just, there was no stopping for them. Once they were on the track and going, that's it. You just have to keep going with them.
I think for me, the writing of the production, it's clear there's been a lot of research over the period of rewriting, however, they got to the point where they've nailed the production. I think for me, what fascinates me is now, because there's quite a big fandom and there's quite a lot of repeat visits by a lot of Mincefluencers, shall we say, because that's what they call themselves.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And Hester Leggett, her role in Operation Mincemeat was never really talked about because there wasn't much history about her. She didn't even feature in the film. And through the fandom, really, they found out that actually her surname was spelt differently to how it was originally written in the musical. Because she'd been spelt as Leggett rather than Legat, which is her actual surname's Legat, and they managed to track down some of her relatives to actually find out who she was and where she and more information, and they actually filled in the missing pieces of this whole operation because of the musical, and there was obviously the song called "Useful" in the production is about having a plaque for women who were involved in a lot of the backroom, investigations and actually successes of some of these operations didn't always get thought of, or any office staff really, anybody that was in the background. It was always the person at the top that would get the medal. So the song "Useful" is about having a plaque and a medal for service to the nation. And now, if you go to the Fortune Theatre, when you go and see Operation Mincemeat, as you walk into the main entrance, there's now a small plaque for Hester Leggett that actually just commemorates her life and her commitment to this operation. Really,
I love that.
And which is such a really, it's like pinch yourself moment must be for the actual writers and the people that are involved in the creation of this to what actually it did. Yes, it's been successful, and yes, it's done so much, but it's actually finalised the pieces in the puzzle,
And the writing is such a departure from the film, which is quite intense. This is clearly plays up a lot of the comedic elements of the plan of the operation. And I think the writing's also doing its job well because of the way that they have given each actor several characters. It feels very evenly spread. It is definitely a teamwork show. There is no one person here that dominates the stage, and it's all about that particular character. Just the way they've segmented the show, it's very clever. Like, they each have a main character that at the beginning of the show that they come back to, like who's their base character, and we get to each one of those characters gets a song throughout the show, and then they obviously all have several other characters to play, but it just feels very evenly spread out, and it's nice. And there's breathing space for each actor, because there's a lot of the show is group work where they're all on at the same time, and it's fast paced. But then throughout, there's just these moments where there might be two of them on stage or one of them on stage, and it's just nice. It changes the pace up. We're not. When you've got Hester and Jean on stage, or when you've got Montague on stage, like just people singing ballads and things like that. It's a nice change up from the group numbers, and it's just very well spread. The pacing is very good as well. So I think they've really thought about an audience watching this and, you know, how to keep it entertaining. And you know what? If you'd have said to me, Operation Mincemeat, like, you know, I do find it interesting, but there's maybe people that, if they've not heard of it, they might find it, I don't know, it might, you know, when you're doing a show that you're giving facts to people, it can come across as we're telling you history, you know,
we're information dump all the time.
Yeah, it feels like an information dump, but this never felt like patronising, or because it was all done tongue in cheek. It's like they're delivering all this information, and it's fun and it's exciting, and they make you care about those characters as well. So I think and that's in the writing.
Definitely.
So I think it must have taken a lot of time to craft this together as a team who was working on this, and I bet there was a lot of you know, going through rehearsals and, you know, snipping bits out and adding bits in to see what worked, what the audience laughed at and things like that. But yeah, I just, like Rich said, all the research, a lot of effort involved.
Well, you have to collect a lot of research to know your subject matter before you go into this. So they've clearly done heaps of that. But also, on a technical side of things, when it comes to writing, you need to know how to write, not just a play and make it understandable, but writing a musical play at that. You know, there's certain beats you've got to hit. There's, like you say, there's certain character things that you come back to, or certain songs which highlight that particular character up again. Like Charles, he got that characteristic joke of the newt all the time, or him being about insects, so you had the references to the bees as well go around. But I like the fact that when they structured the whole play, the whole Act 1 led up to them doing this operation and it being a success, and then in Act 2 it's all the unravelling of that, because there's been a second body, it's all gone a bit pear-shaped and everything's going wrong, and how can we save the day with it all, you know, shit in the fan basically.
And
you know, that's
fits,
quite a classic structure of...
It fits musical structure as well, because you have your character Charles. His I want is wanting to fit in, really, because he starts off and he meets all these other people, and he's been there a long time, but nobody recognises him. They keep saying, "Oh, he's been here 6 years," and
his face is on a mug.
Yeah, his face is on a mug, and nobody knows who he is. And he just wants to fit in, and you know, he obviously loves animals, and we obviously see this nerdy side of him. So we've got that, and then at the end of Act 1, we have your fiasco, like, oh, there's been 2 bodies, and the plan might go tits up, sort of thing. And that is very typical also of a musical, like as in you end the beginning of Act 1 with oh gosh, we want to come back because we want to know what happens, and then Act 2 we start off with something completely different, which I don't want to give away, but we're with different characters altogether, and that's interesting as well. And I think that's a great Act 2 beginner for the song that we saw. I thought that was really intriguing and pulled you in straight away. So it followed a lot of the musical theatre tropes, I'd say, as well.
It's also interesting that, you know, from the whole writing perspective, that even in the information that you read, for example, the Montague family gave permission to use the photos of the original people, and the different people involved, they've given their approval to actually share their stories in this information. And for me, that's like the ultimate full circle moment, that actually this is endorsed by the people that are involved. When we talk about it being the funner version of the operation, it's still being handled with care and consideration for the characters, you know, and I think that says a lot. The other thing I was going to sort of touch on was this production was sparked from an idea because one of the original writers, Zoe Roberts, actually heard through one of her family members, was told to listen to a podcast episode about this operation and said, you need to write a musical about it. And it was literally sparked by listening to a history podcast episode about Operation Mincemeat that then set them off on this journey. And it's amazing, really, to think that it was just one little idea that was just hearing something about something absurd that actually created what's become really successful now, and it's really good to see in a way.
It's an amazing story, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, it's one of those. It's a very good basis for a play or a musical or like a film, because it is just fascinating that, like you say, this small idea saved all of these men, you know, and if that hadn't have happened, we would have been living in a very different Britain today.
And I think
really.
it's rich in different story plots or things that go around it that mean it's got more. It's richer than just one linear storyline. There's other things. There's funny bits.
All the characters have something happening with them that make it more interesting.
Well, in the fact that Charles Chumley Warner becomes a secret agent. You know, his story literally stops, and you never hear from him again because he actually becomes special services. And you know that in its own trope from the fact that, like we said earlier, about he's this nerdy guy that never gets mentioned and noticed, to actually become a special officer in the. You know, that disappears and becomes a spy. You know, that's like, you know, full circle moment. That's like, this is somebody that is using the fact that he's not noticed in the start. It's gone from him being noticed to them not being noticed again, but in such a completely useful way for the you know, nobody knows what happened after that.
Yeah.
And that's such a, you know, crazy end to his whole journey through this production in a way.
I think they're suspecting that there might be a leak as well during the show. That's an extra, like they've gone through the whole mission and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I think they're onto us, there must be a leak.
Yeah.
And then everybody's looking at each other and obviously there's a character in this that they assume it is, but that adds another layer onto it. It's like you're not just fighting the enemy, you might be fighting somebody in your own camp, and that makes it interesting again.
But it also must ring true for people who are in the military and know that level of surveillance has to happen internally as well. Because that just shows how you have to think about the unthinkable because it could be happening, you know, and that just shows that, you know, that will have been happening. They will have had to keep an eye on people and what their movements were, and, you know, when they've got top secret information, it's actually quite valuable, isn't it? So it's, you know.
But you can understand from the war perspective how a lot of comedy comes from it. When if you think of, they've done this operation, but they've discovered that there's also like a second body there. Under similar circumstances, sort of thwarting their efforts.
But this one's alive.
Yeah, but you can sort of understand where, like, the Dad's Army situation or the Naval Arc things and the Lower Low, how you do your best and then it all ends up like a farce, even in real life.
What are the chances it's another man called Bill?
Exactly, but you can see where they get their influences from. Like, really? You know, but these kind of things do happen even on today's.
But you can't. That's what makes it funny. You can't plan.
It makes it British. Put it that way, isn't it? It's British.
And the thing for me is the song "Act as If You Do When You Don't." That song says a lot to me because it's almost like use that to change people's minds. It's like there's a lot of misdirection in what you have to do and what they must have had to do in a lot of the espionage and the things that happen under we don't know about. There's loads of things like that you know, and I think there's certain songs that jump out and you think, yeah, that's probably what happened and probably still happening now, and there's probably things that we don't know about that we're just being misdirected on, and you know, it's all about misdirection. And you know, one thing that's being told to us is not necessarily what's happening behind the scenes, and I think that's the main sort of takeaway from a lot of this. It's very much distraction tactics.
What do we think of the direction for this whole piece?
Well, it's a masterclass, really.
Yeah. It's one of them productions that we've seen quite a lot of, mostly in the round, where they bring in a lot of props on to perform in the stage and playing different characters. But the only difference between this is the fact that this has got a static stage that they act against, and it's not in the round. But this is very much similar and in style, and I think that's why it works, and it's really impressive.
I think a production like this as well, when you direct something, it holds focus for an audience because there's so much going on. And everybody becomes a different character at certain points. You're like, oh, it's somebody new to take in. I need to take that in as well. And it's like when Spilsbury enters, you know, the coroner through out of the blue. You've got this like star-spangled,
Liberace-looking,
Liberace coroner that just breaks through that information dump almost. Yes, he's still purveying that he's going to get a body for the operation, but actually what it does is it just provides that little bit of comic relief fun that coroners have got. They've got a sense of humour because they deal with dead bodies. You know, it's that level of they've timed the comedy right for that person because of that. That's how they are. They've got quite a very almost sick sense of humour. They talk about it quite openly, and I think that works really well.
I can imagine that the director, Robert Hasty, would have worked quite closely with the choreographer, Jenny Arnold,
definitely.
because I don't think that you can really separate the two I think they would have had to have worked together very closely, because obviously, like, the director can say, hey, this is the mood that I really need, this is kind of the emotions that I'm needing from each character, but the show is so well blocked, you know, for the lighting purposes as well, that I think the choreographer would have been very closely working together with the director just to get it is so movement based. There's very few scenes that are static. There's the choreography runs, if you know, the whole way through the show. It is pretty much movement based the whole time, and I mean the spacing of these actors, like, it was just chef's kiss, because like throughout, like, they have to like do all these different routines, and they're weaving in and out of one another, and they just know their mark. They know where they're meant to be. The spacing was never off. It was always feeling symmetrical when it was meant to be, and nobody was slightly to the left or everybody. When there was lighting that came on, and there were particular moments where the lighting, they had to be in such a specific spot, and they were there every time. It's like they must have just, you know, gone over this again and again, but it was so tight. And I think, like, you know, the choreographer would have had to have been there with the director a lot of the time to get all of it moving together as one.
I think as well, to go towards that, I think the original writers being in the cast, the original cast, and the original 5 have also, as well as director, choreographer and set and costume designer, I think they've all probably worked on this together and tuned it, because you almost need the same bodies in the roles to get all those tracks working, to know who's going to go where what with, and they've all got to collaborate, otherwise it wouldn't work. It's got to. It's for me. You can tell that, because I did hear a couple of interviews in the early, like before they started the tour, where they said they're just ironing out some little bits where, like, to make it fit on stage and make sure that the backstage still has that same flow that the Fortune Theatre did, because they've all got to do, because a lot of the cast that have done the tour now have done the West End version, so it's got to have that. There must be a book now that this is how you do it, rather than you don't deviate off this. This is what you do, because it's the only way you can tune it and to make it solid. So but it would have been those 5 cast members as well as those other 3. And I mean, to be honest, I do feel like the whole lot have been involved solidly, and you can tell they've all not got in each other's way, because we talk a lot about you can see whether a director or a choreographer start not doing what they need to do, whereas this
they're acting against each other.
Yeah, they were aligned on their vision. I think having the same vision is so important, because, like, that's where things go wrong when you have it's. People say about cooks spoiling the broth, but if you have the right amount of cooks with the same vision, it doesn't matter how many you've got, as long as you're all on the same thought process. It's when you've got different people with opposing ideas that then it all gets mucky and murky. But I can imagine that if one actor really fell off track with what they were doing, it would affect all the others, because, you know, they're passing props to one another. And like I say, it is that quick that, you know, if you're not where you're meant to be, you're going to miss the handoff, or you're going to miss the costume change, or you can't afford to not be in the right spot. So as an actor, you've really got to be switched on to know where you're going, when, at what time, and who you're passing things off to or receiving things from.
Especially when some of these characters that appear for merely seconds before they become somebody else. So it's like they literally walk on as somebody and they've walked off again and changed again, and it's literally moments.
If you miss it, you miss it, sort of thing.
And if you miss one of those characters, then the storyline starts getting affected because you haven't got that reference,
that
and
element.
it all becomes very disjointed. When you see it happen, you just think it's just mesmerising, because you know that people are running round the back. Because there's one scene where I'll never forget it. It's when Spilsbury walks off, knowing that Hester's that character. Then Hester's at the back of the stairs, coming down the stairs in the next scene. So he's literally ran off as Spilsbury, ran round, and there's not even a blackout. That door's open when he's gone off stage, and he's at the back of the thing as Hester. And it's literally, you've gone from Spilsbury covered in everything to like, and it's phenomenal, the pace, you know, just to do that. It's not every scene, but there's the odd one that you go, how's Hester already there? Because there's like, it's just so clever.
I just think that Christian Andrews was just having a ball of a time. I think because he had a lot of juicy different characters to play. Obviously, his base character was Hester, who, you know, was quite stoic, you know, elderly woman. And then, you know, he was playing the coroner, who we said was jazz hands and very fun and flamboyant. You know, we're doing, you know, lots of fun.
Liberace in the morgue, basically.
Yes, definitely. Then he was playing the American.
Yeah.
So obviously got an American accent there. He played the captain on the ship, so he's Scottish at one point. I mean, the amount of accents that he did alone, there was quite a lot of different ones that I just thought he had a lot of fun characters. I think maybe they gave him the fun flamboyant characters because his base character was stoic.
Yeah.
So because
So.
he was conserving his energy in that main base character. So then when he came out and did all these other characters, it was like, wow, that's a lot of energy thrown at you, and in a really good way. And I think this, just for these actors, this show is a dream, because the chance to multi-role like this, any actor would love that opportunity, you know, to really showcase a wide range of accents. Because they all did a wide range of accents.
Oh yeah.
And things like that. I like I say, I particularly gravitated towards his characters because they're very fun. But then I think at the same time, I think Holly Sumpton did a fantastic job of Montague.
Yes.
I mean, the thing is for her, because she was pretty much one of the main characters, you have to have that character that's there almost solidly throughout. She was obviously multi-rolling occasionally as other characters, but because she was the main one...
Well, you knew when she was in a shirt and a tie and she was walking around.
She was Montague.
She was Montague,
Yeah.
being one of the boys in the boardroom.
But luckily for her, that role was the equivalent, I suppose, of Christian Andrews' like American or the because Montague is flamboyant and fun anyway. So you're playing a very witty, charming. You know what Montague reminds me of? What's the character out of In-Betweeners that kind of like thinks he knows it all?
Jay.
Yeah, gives me that. Obviously, it's a different era,
Yeah,
but you
but
know
I know what
that
you mean,
kind
yeah.
of confidence, like I can do this, I can do that, but actually not the brains, but like they want to be a somebody, and they're very, you know, the bravado. I really got that from her, and I thought she was just. I loved everything that she did, and
She definitely had stage presence.
100%.
Whatever she was doing in that scene.
And
you
she
know,
really...
You wanted to listen to her even in the songs, you know.
Yeah, she really worked well off. Is it Sean Carey?
Oh yeah, definitely.
They just had a really good energy together. I mean,
Well, her and Jean as well. Charlotte Hannah Williams.
all of them did.
Yeah.
Because they're like the duo, because they're really throughout the show, they're the two.
They're the duo, but
like
Holly and
Montague.
Charlotte's character, they were like flirting and going to dinner as well, so there's a bit of interplay between them.
Yeah, I think just the character of Charles, like, just his energy, like, he played nervous so well in Act 1, and then the fact that he was getting more and more confident through Act 2, and then realising that actually is he being, taken for a fool by Montague, is Montague kind of leading him on sort of thing, and we went through that whole arc and journey with him, and for an actor to play that character, we saw his confidence growing, we saw he was like a golden retriever, very bouncy, and I think the thing is, what was great is to see Montague and Charles, their bounciness next to like I say, Hester, who was more stoic, and even Johnny Bevan was more of a the captain, like, no nonsense. He wasn't massively flamboyant. So the characters all weighed out. And then obviously we had Charlotte Hannah Williams playing Jean, and it was so lovely to see, her playing this female in wartime wanting to be
more than just the telephonist.
Yeah,
or
she
typist.
wants to be in. She doesn't want, she doesn't want to be seen as a woman. She wants to actually contribute something worthwhile, and seeing her journey. She had an arc as well. Her relationship, obviously, with Hester at the beginning was very rocky, and she's looking at her thinking, oh my God, I don't want to become you. You're unmarried, you're not what I want to be. And then by the end of the show, there's this understanding between the two characters, and she's like, oh my gosh, you're an amazing woman, actually. Like, I do want to be like you. And I think it was very sentimental, and it was played so delicately. And
there was a journey of learning and understanding of what your role entails. It's not just about having the ideas. It's like even Hester says, just being there, showing up, making the tea when asked contributes as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And you might not ever get recognised. You might never get your certificate or your medal from Churchill, for your efforts. A lot of your efforts, mostly for the women, went unnoticed a lot of the time, because it was all about the boys at the front.
Yeah, really. But their consistency and carrying things on and making sure things are done. It's a little bit like the glee sheet that Hester has for creating all the fake documents. It's that little bit of like, oh, I get to use stamps. It's purveying that character that basically stands out. There was the first scene in the first half where they're having two meetings, and one's the fake meeting, one's the real meeting, but we're having both meetings, but which one's fake? No, we're having both meetings. It's like Hester knows that those are the things we have to do to divert and to, it's actually more manipulative by what she's doing to make sure that things they happen for a reason, and she's making sure that happens. And actually there's more power in that calmness than actually this crazy, like, let's come up with loads of ideas. No, I'm going to keep all these things running, and it's going to be fake in the background. Yeah,
she's a perfect person to be the mistress of being organised and keeping everyone in check in the background.
Yeah, it's like when they're creating all the documents for the suit, for the briefcase. She knows what needs to be done.
She's in her element.
She's got to create this whole world, and it's written in such a way that, and Christian really purveyed that, because obviously Christian was just as good as the originals. I mean, to me, all of them were. I mean, just to mention, Sean Carey was one of the original cast for the Fortune Theatre version, and prior to that, when it was on at Riverside Studios, so before it became Fortune Theatre, he was one of the original Chumley Warners at that point. So he's come through the ranks. So it's actually quite nice that the tour nods to the original cast members to bring it to life out on the tour as well. Because then it's kept in the authenticity of the whole production, really,
I think Jamie Rose Monk was brilliant as well.
Yeah, totally.
Like you say, Gemma, about...
Was it the Cornish character?
Yeah, about like Christian having really good characters. But like Jamie Rose, I think, had a great deal of other characters to play, as well as Bevan, because, like you say, that inspector in Spain.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
She was so funny, and like comedy.
Such a polar opposite.
It was the fact that they kept
other character,
kept mentioning the sangria, and I think they said a sweaty little man, or they said clammy little beauty, and but she just played it so well. And also, I think, at the end of the act 2 starters, like, when we meet the opposition to the English and we've just seen, like, them as really the Nazis, the number is very upbeat, so the audience is like cheering, and at the end she comes on and goes, really, whose side are you on? And it got a huge roar, and she had a lot of brilliant one-liners throughout. She had a lot of the rapping throughout, a lot of the others had the singing. And I was saying, for her in particular, when you're doing rapping at the speed that it was set, your pronunciation, your diction has to be impeccable.
It does.
And she just spat those lyrics out so clearly. I knew exactly what she was saying. And I think if you got somebody that hadn't, got that really lovely diction, I think it could have been lost very easily. I think it can sometimes be more difficult to rap. And I think, she did a great job.
Yeah, definitely. I think each of them have got, when they're performing, it probably helps them flip between characters when you've got something that's very polar opposite with their likeness. They've got a different voice or this, so it helps them. Costume helps put them in that next person's sort of boots almost as well.
The teamwork was really there. I really was on their side and rooting for them as a group. And I think, you can just, I imagine that they get on very well. And if they don't, it does not come across that way.
Exactly.
It looks like they're having a ball of a time on that stage every night.
I think for me, what I get fascinated by is the fact that you don't really twig that there's 5 people when there's so many characters on stage. When they come out as different people, you just go, oh, it's such and such, or it's such and such. You don't really think it's the same person sometimes. You're like watching it going, well, yeah, that is them. And that, because you don't feel disorientated by it. You don't feel like it's raced and rushed. It's got a good pace, but you don't feel like those characters, you'd forget them. They're very different every time. So
I think just the speed at which they changed their accents and their mannerisms immediately.
Yeah.
It's like there wasn't even a breath,
No.
sometimes. It was just like within a click of a finger, they are somebody else. And it was immediate, and we knew exactly what character they were. Obviously the props helped with that, but even if you'd have got a cat, even with all the props, if you've got a cast that couldn't, physically and vocally deliver those characters correctly, it wouldn't have worked, even with the props, because you need to have that immediate change of character that's very specific.
Yeah. Talking of props, on the second viewing, I realised that, when in the second act, when the Spanish guy is trying to persuade the newspaper people that the spies, right? Well, I didn't realise that it wasn't the actress's hands.
I love that bit.
On the newspaper.
I love that bit.
They're actually stuck to the newspaper,
And
so when they swap it over...
I missed that. I completely missed that.
So they're both holding the newspaper, and Jean stood behind one of them, holding the newspaper, the one on the edge. But actually behind it, she's got a wine glass ready to go out for a date with Montague.
Yes.
But Bevan carries the newspaper off, and it's still like that, with the hand still on it.
Yeah.
So it's just a piece, it's just a fixed newspaper that is just carried off, and it's so clever because it's like, it adds another level of humour because you just see a little bit of a behind the scene prop use.
Well, this is why this production is quite good for multiple viewings, because I didn't notice that first time around.
Yeah, exactly.
The second time around I noticed that, because there's so much to look at within not just the actors portraying the characters and the nuances and how they perform, but also the set pieces and the props and everything. There's always something new and fresh to see. Although saying that, it was quite obvious on the last show we saw at Sheffield, when the whole ending with it's a genius man turned out to anus man, they made a reference. Did you see it? Is my sign okay? Is my sign okay? Really nailing that in to make sure everyone saw it.
Up there.
But I don't think they got the round of applause or the laughter that they wanted straight away.
Yeah.
It felt like it was missing until everyone looked up and saw.
It did take me a minute as well. But that's the thing. There's so, especially for the finale, there is so much going on that you could easily miss something.
Did you notice the propellers turn to the swastika?
Oh, yes, I did see that, yeah. I just think there was so much to see. I can see why Richard's gone and seen it so many times, because I think you could easily miss lyrics if somebody's laughing at something, or if you happen to be in an audience with sweet rappers or distractions. I think you could easily miss something, and there's so much going on. They're all doing so much at once to make the magic happen that I think you could go back and just watch different actors or different parts.
What I picked up on one of the songs was when they were singing about a lung and a draw. Yeah. Now that tickled me. I didn't hear it in the Lowry.
Well, I didn't hear it this time, so I sort of did, but yeah.
It's one of my favourite lines, and yet I think Stephen missed it the first time.
Yeah, but the thing is, well, I did miss it the first time, but the thing is, there's so many things going on, and when they're rapping and they're saying a lot of information dump in the lyrics as well. Whilst it's very clever, you're sort of like processing what's gone before, and those kind of things. By the time you've caught up, you've jumped and missed because they're on a different chorus or a verse.
So what will be interesting for you is when you listen to the songs again. Now you've got the context of the actual production. Yeah, you'll start going, oh yeah, that's that bit. That's the bit I missed, and that's the bit I missed, and that, and you'll hear it. You'll hear it in the songs, and it's really good. And I think that's the other thing with the music in this production. The songs stand up on their own as the soundtrack. You don't, once you've seen it, you can happily put the soundtrack on and have it on in the background and know what's happening. Each song stands apart as well, because some musicals I've been to where you go away going, oh, I'm going to name it, Devil Wears Prada. I've not covered it on the podcast, but I've seen it. And the minute I walked out of that production, I forgot all the songs. There was not one stood out. Everything just went. And for me, that says a lot about a musical when you just go, what's left? Like
Titanic the musical, that was one for me.
It was very Titanic the musical, where the songs just didn't stand up on their own. And I think there's a lot to be said about that sort of music that you go, but I didn't actually remember. It was all meant to have been good, but it didn't.
It had its own sound world as well, which I thought was really clever. Like the British had a sound world. And when we were with the British, we knew where we were.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when we were in Spain, we had a different sound world. Exactly. And then when we met the Germans, different sound world again. Like we had a very, I thought it was very like Six. I thought we got the Queens from Six coming on because the music was very similar to that. So, I think the way that they used music to create the different characters as well. They really thought about that, and that was well done.
Well, you only have to look at all the ladies. It's basically single ladies. It's basically Beyonce. But it's in their own way, and it's fun, and it just it puts another spin on the whole thing, and it's all about power. But everything stands up on its own, and I think that's really nice.
And when we came back to those bass characters, we had that very British feeling music again, and we were like, oh, we're back to where we started and who we know.
But they didn't shy away from things like Dear Bill, where it took you to another place and you actually started to get to know. And I think the reason people get into the likes of how Hester is all the way through this is because that goes into her life. And you start realising there's more to Hester than you initially think. She's not just a subplot. She's actually got a life in the background, and she's lost somebody herself. And she's lost somebody in the previous war, hasn't she?
She's kind of pinpointing the farce of the play into realism a bit more on that one, and bringing it all back home to the fact that it isn't just slapdash running around the stage having a laugh and singing songs. It's about these guys actually losing their lives, fighting the war, and that she's trying to keep it real within that. Exactly. And those two trying to write a song, Love is a Bird, like they're so immature, so young, they don't understand what love is.
No, they don't.
Love is knowing that you might never see your loved one again, because they're fighting for.
And they also don't know that actually writing that note is more about talking as though you're still in the room. The letter is almost cathartic to the person writing it to their loved one that they'll probably never see again because they've not heard from them.
Might never even get the message either.
But to them, they've written it to them, and it's another way to connect. And then just as she's leaving after writing the song, she says something on the lines of, I just want to help the boys out there. It's like her if that's all she can do by writing that letter is to save all those people from getting killed, that's her bit. That's her. She's opened her heart to let people know of the story, but actually, she's that by doing that, she's saved so many people.
Well, she even says in that opening number, it's about keeping it normal.
Yeah.
About talking about the roses and how looking after them, and talking about the neighbours and the mother-in-law and the sister and so on. Keep everything normal.
Yeah.
But it was
in unnormal times.
Yeah, it was very brave of the writers, though, because that song, actually, when you listen to it, it's quite long, and it's a ballad, and, it spotlights on, him at that time, and I just think, really, I heard somebody behind me sniffling. There was quite a few. There were quite a few people crying in the audience, and I think...
It always gets me.
Yeah, they gave it space. And that's a brave thing to do because it was a long amount of time. Some people could have gone, oh no, let's cut it down. Like, keep it, but let's keep it under 3 minutes. But they let it sit and resonate. And it was the slowest point in the whole show, but it was quiet and contained.
You could hear a pin drop. It was that it causes that focus.
And at Sheffield Lyceum as well, you could actually hear the pin drop because normally you hear Pringle wrappers, bloody sweet wrappers, family circle biscuits being opened. Yeah,
and
it's a nightmare there.
It was just beautiful.
I think as well, writing style of that song. It's the cleverness of using humour to make it more emotional. So it's half written to sort of make fun of the roses and the fact that I'm not talking to the roses, but my husband did. And it's like using those little nods to like what his sister did by playing the piano, and Hester's like talking about what happens. And for me, that whole first half of that song is painting a picture of that house, and you can see all the elements of where she lived and surrounded by this family that is his. And then you start realising actually the roses are now dying, and then it's a lot more bleak towards the end of the song, and it just turns, and that's what guts people. It's because it's gone from this humorous, lovely little picture to now actually I've still not heard from you, and I'm still not hearing from you, and if I only hear this song, you have your voice in my head, that's still resonating, and that's all I've got left. And
she's given her life, and she's given her life to that new character of William that they've just made up. Yeah, really.
And she's having to then turn up to work and just be Hester and just carry on as it's the carry on, and it's the keep calm and carry on view in her head that she just got to keep going, really.
So it's a relief for her just to let it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Something she's never actually said before out loud, but because she's written it out, she's like purging all that. And I think therapeutically for her.
And it's also that slight of thing of when the song ends and she turns her back to the audience. And that makes it even more powerful because it's just even more silence. There's more space in it to like go, actually, this is, the moment.
They gave it room, and I think, not many shows do that anymore, and I think it works.
And I think then to punch in straight after that, Ceylon Boys, which for me is just as powerful.
Yeah.
But to a wider audience. So you've got
it's heroic, isn't it?
It's heroic, but it's also you've got people that have known people who've been in the armies or in the wars. In the audience, you've got family members who were there now, probably while they're, and that is like a song of like it just says so much that they've put them in such the right place for it to all feel quite really strong and powerful at that point.
Yeah, and it comes in at the right time because previous to that, we've had a lot of rap and a lot of happy music and a lot of powerful, quick info dumping. So I think for it to be a slow down pace and be allowed to breathe, it hits it right at the right time.
I think as well we see with Ceylon Boys, it's a sea shanty that sounds like it was written as a sea shanty in the war days, and it actually wasn't. It was something they wrote, but it feels like it was written
in the period.
It feels like it's something they would have sung as the ship's going, like as the submarine's going down. It's like it sounds perfectly placed in that construction of it to really feel like it's from that
They've
era.
replicated the music of that era, haven't they, very well?
Yeah.
So do we have any favourite songs from this musical? Any highlights?
I mean, we just talked about two of the best
Yeah.
ones for me.
Dear Bill was fantastic.
Dear Bill, I think we can all agree that was
Yeah.
amazing.
I loved. Is it Das
Übermisch.
Yeah, that's absolutely a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
I think that one
Always.
comes in just to get the energy back up for the second
Yeah, it's
act,
the right
to show the
point.
other side. But because they never show the other side again, it's just to highlight it before, make a joke of it,
Yeah.
like you support
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To back
exactly.
it back
Yeah.
But
in
they
the,
made
with
the
play.
music something. This is what was clever about it. They made the music something popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously the Germans were very influential. You
Yeah.
know, they were like going join us and things like that. And so the fact that they picked like a very popular form of music, like very poppy and it was completely different. It was definitely not of the era, and that's what made it funnier. Like I'm sure, and the movements they were doing was very provocative, which
Yeah,
obviously
it was.
the Germans would not have been doing that. But it was like, in a way, it reminded me of Springtime for Hitler and Germany
Yeah.
from the producers. It gave me that with a bit of we're taking the mick out of, but
It's funny you said that, because I was thinking at the time when I first saw that it was very much like going into hell for the Book of Mormon.
Yeah,
that
exactly. Yeah,
Mormon
yeah,
Hell
definitely.
Dream one.
yeah.
I think as well, when you step back from it, it's actually timed really well because they've just dumped the body in the water, and this is basically saying that they're preparing their troops to go over to. This is like the other side of preparing the troops, and it is just so cleverly placed, like you say. Bring us back,
Yeah.
wake us up, and start off we go again.
But they knew the audience would really enjoy that number, which is why it's funny, because obviously we're not meant to be rooting for the Germans, so that's why it was funnier, I think.
But also, it's quite useful because if you're still going to the toilet or you're still getting your drinks and you're still getting to your seat at that point,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you miss a little bit at the beginning because it doesn't affect the plot.
Yeah.
You've not got into the plot until the second song.
And also the costumes gave away who they were, so I think, but it would have been a shame if you'd have missed it.
Oh yeah, but like 15 minutes
Yeah.
with a packed house. A song that I actually thought was a standout one was Act As If You Do If You Don't.
Yeah.
Because I think that says, I think you picked up on that earlier on, that it says so much on that one. Like, call someone a genius when actually they're a fool.
Yeah,
And how many
But
times
use
have
them
people...
to your advantage.
Yeah. Build them up.
Build
and,
them up, and because they'll do what you need for them. For me, "Dead in the Water" always gets me because I find it quite. It's Charles Chumley's song where he talks about being a newt and a slimy nascent thing, and it's actually quite a. It's one of those nice little songs that's like an empowering one. He's got all the ideas, but everybody dismisses him. I just like the simplicity of that starting block of his.
And an insect is something that you'd overlook. A lot of people are like, ew, insects, like they're below us, like vermin in a way. So the fact that he sees himself as an insect, like, it really cemented this outsider
it did.
role for him. I really liked Making a Man
Yeah.
Like
as
Making
well,
a Man,
because
yeah.
obviously this is where they're all getting excited about creating who this person is and the persona, and they're coming up with all the ideas, let's buy an expensive engagement ring, and like they're having lots of parties and they're really enjoying themselves on this kind of this is the part of the operation that they're loving. They're like, great, we can go out and we can, the expense of all of the things that they were needing to do, they were just having a great time on the town and really enjoying themselves.
It's quite similar in tone to, I think it's God That's Brilliant, when they're all pitching their ideas and they're all talking about each one, and one of them's obviously the Ian Fleming character there.
Yeah.
It's similar
All
in
that we
tone,
need
very
is a
funny,
swanky
uplifting,
tuxedo.
but all about ideas and stuff. There's one song I quite like, but I don't know which one it is. It's the one where Bevan's talking to Montague, how Montague wants to do something, but he's going off the rails, and Bevan's basically saying, "No, you've not got free will or free
that
license to do something." She
I
takes
call
it
a
back.
bort, is it? Possibly?
Is it? Yeah, maybe I
don't
call a
know.
bort, because she goes into a bit of a rap.
Yes.
There.
I'm assuming it's I call a bort. What, is it when they find out that Spilsbury was a
all
con
gone wrong.
artist and they've not got the papers for the original
Yeah,
Do
the
you
one?
mean the
papers
bit?
gone
Do you
missing.
mean the bit with the ring? 'Cause it's
Possibly.
in making a man.
No, I'm sure it was in
No,
Act
it's in
2.
Making a Man, because basically halfway the song's really long, and it's in that where Bevan questions all the money being spent because the man's not made at that point. That's where it is.
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was in Act 2, to be
No,
honest.
it's in the first act. If it's the ring and the theatre tickets and all that, it's in Making a Man.
I think it happens twice though, because like they stop them.
Yeah, and then
in
she does the
Making a
rap in
Man.
Act 1,
They
but I'm more
definitely do.
thinking it was
They
Act
do
2.
it twice. It happens in Making a Man, where Bevan's like saying, "Hey, you're going overboard. This is expensive. You know, all of this."
Yeah,
but I do
but
think it happens again in Act 2 when they find out that. Montague's just trying to push everything forward, but everything's falling apart. They're thinking that obviously the Americans come in about the poison, all this stuff's happened. No, I know what it is. Montague said it doesn't matter who that body is.
Yeah.
And they've done it illegally.
Yeah.
And they found out that the body was obtained illegally through this dodgy source. And that's when Bevan says, hey, who does this body belong to? Where is it from? You can't just take a body without, alerting the family. You're not above the law. And that's when Bevan really lays into Montague
reels him back in
and
again.
says, because I think the thing is Montague's saying, oh, it doesn't matter who the body was, like all the way through. It's like it's irrelevant. They're doing, they're doing as they should be honoured that their body's being used for this mission.
Yeah.
But I don't think Montague really cares. That's the problem. Montague doesn't care about this body and where it's from. They're more bothered about the mission. Whereas Bevan is saying, no, there's a family for this body and you cannot just take this body and do whatever you please. You've done something illegal and you're out of line. And I think that's where Bevan really breaks into Montague and says, look, you need to get your act together. I'm calling it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I'm just going to have to listen to the soundtrack all over again just to see if it... I have a feeling that is the one in the Act 2 that I'm thinking about anyway.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
What the tech is this?
There's a couple of changes from the Fortune Theatre thing that I can see why they've done it. So the grid at the back, you know how you have the one thing we haven't talked about is there's LEDs in all of the grid.
Yeah.
So the first time I saw it, they had a lot of glitches on that grid and it didn't work fully in London. So there was sometimes when some of the lines didn't work and things like that. So I could see that they've clearly heavily worked on that to make it a lot stronger because it worked brilliantly this time in the tour version. For me, one of the things is when Willie Watkins appears at the top in the plane.
Yeah.
And all it is, you can just see the like almost vague outline of a plane in the sky, and he's actually in the pilot as a pilot.
Yeah, I noticed that one was at the Lowry, but I couldn't work it out at the Lyceum because of obviously where we sat. Did you see that, Gemma?
Yeah. Willie Watkins opens the door high up.
The American.
And he's in the plane.
I didn't see. I don't know whether I could see it
It's
from
in the
where
second
I
half.
was.
I saw it from where I was.
Yeah. Because the lines in the grid system
Make a plane.
makes a line
You see,
out of a
this
plane.
is the thing. There's so much to be
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at. There's these little, you know what? If I went and saw it again, I'd be looking out for that now.
Yeah,
But there's
exactly.
this is what I'm talking about. There's so many details. They've just thought so carefully about everything. Like, I missed that. I'm gutted now you mentioned it. But it's like, it's so easy to do because there's so much going on to be looking at. It's so easy to miss those
Because they did
things.
something similar with An Officer and a Gentleman. I remember that.
I think for me, I like the fact that they used they didn't use those lines on the back wall until the second half.
Yeah.
Because the first half, there's a lot to take in. So now,
But it also made the first song, which was German, stand out
Yeah, it
when it
did.
went all techno.
because you're like, oh my god,
You wasn't
this is-
expecting that at all.
You
Yeah.
don't expect anything to light up or anything. You're expecting it to just be, it's hiding it in plain sight almost.
It felt like full disco,
Yeah.
especially at the beginning of that too.
But yeah, so that was the thing that went wrong I think I can see why they've worked on it, and I'm glad they didn't go over the top with a lot of projections and things like that. They were, and lighting wise, I just think it's fun when you start using coloured light and things like that, just to add a bit of variety to Just for Tonight scene and stuff like that. Where yes, you're in a club in the 40s, but let's make it look like it's a club in the 2000s almost. But I think one of the other scenes is the finale scene where right at the end you've got this, basically they've got a backdrop that is just a moon rising. Well, it's not a sunset, it's more of a moon above the water with little specks all over the thing as stars, and it's one of the best effects, but it's one of the most simple effects because it is just a painted backdrop and they just brightly light it. Because it's all black and there's only certain white bits, it starts to look like the night sky and a really bright moon at the back behind everybody. And I just think it really works because it comes out of nowhere and it's such a calm moment when we're talking about Glyndor Michael, that's the actual original, the body, and gives you that tie up to the whole production, who he actually was, and that there's now a plaque where he was from, and it's so nice to see that complete turnaround, really.
I think it was great how they, in the basement that they're in, like we said, it's very blue-based lighting, and then as soon as we're in Spain, very orange.
Oh,
we're
yeah.
warm. We're not somewhere cold and dark and chilly
We're all
now.
hot
It's
and sweaty.
And also for when we were with the coroner, the lighting of the projections, we didn't actually see projections,
No,
but they made it the light swooped on as though we were seeing a projection. So we
totally blurred, but we know they're looking at
we
stuff.
couldn't see what they could see, but we knew that they were looking at projections that were sliding on, and that was very white based lighting, So I think the use of lighting was very cleverly done.
Well, that's the first time I actually saw that they had a small light at the very back of the stage, as if it was a projector light.
Yeah.
The second time around, I didn't see that on the first time around.
Yeah, whereas it happened.
Yeah, I did.
You just you don't see it unless you've No, I think.
And the finale lighting as well. Oh gosh, they just went all out.
Anything else for the technical bits?
We had one mic drop in this version.
One.
One.
Bit,
It was beginning of Act 2.
We didn't in Manchester. We had nothing, did we?
No.
And I mean, to be fair.
And it was half a line, and it was unfortunately it was for Montague.
Yeah. But compared to other productions, that is nothing.
Considering the crazy amount of things that were going on, the fact that was it.
Yeah.
I think somebody said, I suppose it wouldn't be technical, but a door was left open that was mentioned.
Yes.
And but I didn't even notice that, and I don't think many other people would have done that didn't know the show. But I think people would have recognised the mic being dropped. But like I say, it was so momentary, they fixed it almost immediately. So.
Well, it must have only been about 2 or 3 words that she said unmiked. And to be honest, thank God she is mic'd, because I couldn't hear a word of it anyway.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean? So there's...
It was so minor, I don't think...
I think the live band as well, as well as the cast, the blend of sound was really good. As in...
Was it it was a live band?
Yeah, there's a live band backstage. They're not in the pit, they're off stage.
Oh, right.
Because of this sort of production, they'd need to... If they need a pause, they've got to... Some songs were picked up while they're singing, so they have to do it in a certain way. But yeah, I think they blended really well. You could hear everything, clearly, and we've seen other productions where they, it's all over the place. So it's nice to know that a tour cast is balanced and sounds good. Lighting design was Mark Henderson, and Mike Walker was the sound design.
And now it's time for
Rewind, Rewatch.
Right, rewind, rewatch. Let's start with Jem. Which bit of this musical production would you like to just rewind and watch again?
I don't know how you could make me answer that question. I think that's outrageous. I think.
Okay, bearing in mind you could watch the whole thing again, because you probably have to pick up on things.
Yeah, no.
Which scene would you like to just snip back?
There's so many. This is the thing. There's so many. I don't know how you pick one. This is the problem with this show. It is just such a top-notch production. I mean, the finale was extremely special because they brought all guns out blazing. It was just fantastic. Obviously, we've mentioned it. Bill was brilliant. Making a Man, I really enjoyed. Like I said before, I really enjoyed that scene.
But you've got to pick one. Which one would you just...
Maybe Making a Man. I think, because I just like how it's all of them.
Yeah.
Because I think if I picked any other, like, the finale'd got all of them, but I think Making a Man, they're all there.
Yeah.
And they're all involved. Whereas if I just picked one solo number from one of them, they were all equally good. And I don't think you could just go, my probably solo number that I love the best probably would have been Dear Bill. But if I'm saying overall, I think the uplifting feeling of Making a Man, probably that scene, because they're all excited about the plan, and it is most of the plot, really. So, yeah.
What about you,
I'd
Richard?
say.
I think for me, it's Sail On Boys, but the final version of it right at the end. That always hits me because
There's so much power
there's
behind
so
it.
much power behind that final scene that it just wraps the whole musical up, and it's such a sweet moment that is very poignant, that you can't build unless you've seen the whole production, and it just hits, especially as well now that's actually been used in a recent one of the I think it was either VE Day or whatever. They've actually performed it with the military now as part of a big performance, and it's nice to know that it's being used in that way. So yeah.
I think for me, I'd rewind and watch the whole telephone communication mishap outside the autopsy room. With the whole swapping on the telephone
and the suitcase and the
That
briefcase.
was fun.
Yeah, and the secrets and the hats.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Moving on to our final segment, as we say, call this a show. Right, to sum up then, Richard, let's go with you.
I think personally, it's a musical that lives quite dear in my heart. It's when I come from a family of people that have been in the military, and my grandma and granddad actually met in the RAF, and I know a lot about their story. There's a lot of parallels that I see through a lot of this musical that I've been told about, and I've also got books that my granddad wrote that that there's a lot of authenticity. My granddad just took the chocks away from Lancaster bombers, and he saw people never come back. And to know that in my lifetime, I've got people in my life that my nan used to mend all the uniforms that we saw on stage. She used to be the one that used to fix them when they used to come back from a mission, and to know that they've got that authenticity in this production from. Yes, that was the RAF. This is a Navy and the military and the sort of war rooms, but all of the people that were involved, they didn't get medals, or they didn't get but they took the chocks away from the Lancaster bombers that saved us, or in a way. So there's a lot of things that happened that I can see the parallels and know that it's been written with so much care that it's just fantastic.
Jem?
I think there's just such a good blend of comedy and poignancy, and they've really balanced it well, and because it can be a fine line. It's a serious subject after all. It's something that affected everyone. So I just think that the way that they deliver it is so carefully done and with care. I massively enjoyed it. It's inherently British. And I think some people may see it and think Operation Mincemeat, and they may think war, and there's a lot of people that might, I'm not saying women, but there's some people that might think, oh, war, that's men, that's soldiers, that's boring, and but it's not. We're not talking on the battlefield war. We're talking about behind the scenes. We're talking about all of the brains that went behind all of these operations that actually helped win the war, and the information that is given throughout is just fascinating. And I think there's a lot of people that might not realise that this show is for them. So if you're somebody that doesn't like, kind of generally the war genre, I defy you, and I say, go and see this. And then tell me you don't like the genre, because they're taking this war genre and they're flipping it on its head and making it fun and digestible with all the facts. And I think people who think they're not going to like this, I think would be pleasantly surprised. So yeah, I just say I definitely recommend you to go see this at least once. And once you have, I think you'll be hooked, and I think you'll be booking seats again, really.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better, to be honest. I just felt like this was entertaining thoroughly throughout. It was well written, well directed, well performed. So much craft has gone into the making of this, and not just the stage show, the thoughts behind that. And like you say, you know, there's more to it. So I'll definitely urge everyone to go and see it, and actually probably see it more than once, because there's so much to pick up on constantly.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, I'm just going to add a little bit of thing, because I went a bit morbid from my perspective, but I've also got little stories where there's a lot more humour in the war than we probably realise. You know, there's even a story where my granddad used to hide in one of the gun turrets of one of the warplanes, and he used to put his foot on the pedals to hide away from everybody else so he could read a book. You know, it was his way of. He used to disappear. But my nan and granddad met in one of the dances on the barracks. You know, that there was a lot more happiness in. You know, people have got to get through something, so you've got to enjoy it. So you know, this also harks to days of, you know, people performing in the sort of barracks to keep people happy and keep people enjoying life as much as you could. You know, that's what it also nods to as well. And I think, you know, it's amazing really that it's I'm just so pleased it's got to the level it has now, and it's still kept its core.
It's the viewpoint of the people at home.
Yes.
So I think the thing is, people think the war, and they think the people that are out on the front. And I think these are the people that may have been, you know, possibly forgotten in history, and it's shedding light on, you know, the great service that they did for this country. And, you know, actually these great minds really, they made the difference. You know, it's great being out, you know, obviously fighting, but I think they did things that people on the battlefield couldn't do, like, you know, these strategic plans and just the brains behind it all that just may have gone, they could have been forgotten, and the fact that we're shedding light on them again, I think that's a really great thing to do.
Scores then please for Operation Mincemeat on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being an excellent production Winston Churchill would be proud of, and 1 being Drowning Your Sorrows at the Milky Pig. Jem, we'll start with you. What's it going to be?
Well, I don't think this is going to be a surprise at all, but it has to be a 10 out of 10 for me. I could not fault this show. The actors just gave it their all, and the production value was immense. So I can't say a bad thing about it, to be honest. It was
worth
brilliant.
A ticket value. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And Richard?
It's a 10 out of 10 for me, because it would have been way back sort of 3-4 years ago when I saw it.
And you know what? I think I might give it a 10 as well. Woo! You know.
Go for it.
Okay, so in the accumulator, that's ding, 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 ding.
Oh, this is a odd one.
5-star production. So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
I think it's got to be a standing ovation for me. And if I could give it even more than that, a flying ovation. Like,
and would you chuck your knickers in the air and chuck them onto
Nobody
the stage?
wants my knickers on the stage, but no, it was, definitely a standing ovation for me.
It's a standing ovation from me.
Are you going to take your knickers off and all?
No.
Swing your bra around, holler.
No.
And it's a standing ovation for me as well. I'm keeping the knickers on. So thank you very much, Gemma, for being involved in this edition of the podcast. So there we are. That's our discussion of
Operation Mincemeat.
We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned for more of our thoughts
And
And opinions.
on many theatrical delights in future episodes.
If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of Upstage Downstage.
From fringe freight. Already!
You're allowed.
Right. From fringe favourite to West End phenomenon. Oh my gosh, why are you putting all the F's in one sentence? Phenomenon. How would you say?
Phenomenon. Phenomenal?
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
West End phenomenon.
Okay.
Phenomenal.
Right. From fringe favourite to West End phenomenon. It's gonna be weird, that trips me. How do you say that?
Phenomenal.
Phenomenon.
Yeah.
Phenomenon.
Phenomenon. What a horrible word. Right.
Phenomenon.
In the first sentence as well. Right. From fringe favourite to West End phenomenon. This is going to drive me nuts.
Phenomenon.
From... It's all the F's. It really is such good alliteration.
Right, we're just getting excuses.
This is
what I get from him.
I don't do things like this.
You do. You still have to put your bloody teeth in.
The year is 1943. The Allies are losing the war, and an audacious plan.
Oh, here we go.
No, it's an audacious.
Audacious.
The year is 1943. The
Do it
Allies.
again. I had to move my thing back.
I know you
didn't
did. I know. The year is 1943. The Allies are losing the war, and an audacious plan is about to be set into motion. No, it's because I couldn't see it.
It's your teeth.
No,
Put them in.
The year is 1943. The
Right,
Allies.
start again.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but you went.
I know.
That's the year is.
Yeah, all right.
That's how I felt when I saw phenomenon. It's like, what is this?
This is a phenomenon.
I feel like I'm being tested.
Involving a stolen corpse, a fake love letter, and one of the most unlikely intelligence operations. And one of the most likely, well, not unlikely.
Okay, from involving.
I know, yeah. Involving a stolen corpse, a fake love letter, and one.
Does that make all the difference?
Yeah, because it's like I'm wearing an eye patch. It's like that. That's
An eye for an eye.
I'm not seeing half the words.
Involving a stolen corpse.
It's not a pirate production.
It is if you're wearing your eye patch. Right, ready when you are.
So
Put my teeth. I'll let me put my teeth in.
Involving a stolen corpse, a fake love letter, and one of the most unlikely intelligence. I don't know why I'm running out of breath there. Because I've done too many stairs.
Or biscuits.
I know, yeah. That's your fault.
Of course, I put them in the basket with me not being there.
Okay.
How many times have you seen this play? You've got to get the pictures
4.
up to get ready.
How many more times have you seen it? I'm seeing it twice next week.
Twice next week?
Yeah.
What's still where?
Sheffield.
Sheffield. Are we going after 3 or on 3?
You tell
1, 2
me.
clap or 1, 2, 3 clap? What are we doing?
1, 2, 3, clap.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was off.
Yeah.
You got too excited.
I think.
Right. 1, 2, 3. I think so.
Yeah, that's alright.